On October 29th, 2025, something huge is coming. It's over 10 kilometers long, that's around about 6 miles, moving faster than any asteroid in our solar system. And it's not from here. Astronomers call it 3I Atlas. Harvard's Avi Loeb says there's a 40% chance it's not a rock at all, but an alien spacecraft. And if Loeb is right, the timing couldn't be more suspicious. When you hear the name 3I Atlas, it's actually a code. The 3I means it's the third interstellar object we've seen. Atlas is the telescope system that found it in February 2024. To understand why this matters, let's look back. In 2017, we saw Oumuamua, the first interstellar visitor. Loeb argued it wasn't natural because it accelerated without a visible tail, like a comet should have. In 2019, we got Borisov, a more normal comet, but still from outside our solar system. Now, 3I Atlas is bigger than both, over 10 kilometers long. For scale, that's like Mount Everest lying on its side, flying through space. Avi Loeb has been controversial because he's willing to say what other scientists won't, that some of these objects might be artificial. Here's his concern with 3I Atlas. When it swings around the sun, it will go out of sight for a period. If it's a spaceship, that's the perfect time to slow down, change direction, even head straight for Earth without us knowing until it's too late. This isn't science fiction. Spacecraft, even ours, use the sun to perform gravity assists or hide movements from view. Loeb's point is, if it's controlled, it could choose the exact moment to reveal itself. And here's where it gets interesting. That exact period lines up with something else we've been hearing from the UFO disclosure world. Over the last few years, multiple high-profile insiders, from journalists to ex-intelligence officials, have been pointing towards a very specific time frame for world-changing revelations, and it's between 2025 and 2027. Let's start with Ross Coulthard. He's not your average UFO commentator. This is a respected investigative journalist with decades of hard-hitting reporting. Coulthard says credible sources have told him something big is coming in 2027. Something that will change how humanity sees itself forever. He's been vague on details, but adamant on the year. Then we have Jeremy Corbell, filmmaker, podcaster, and conduit for military whistleblowers. Corbell warns of two possibilities in the same period: a genuine revelation of contact with non-human intelligence, or a staged, manipulated alien event, a false flag that could be used to control public perception. Stephen Greer, longtime disclosure advocate, has been sounding the alarm for decades. But in the last 2 years, his language has shifted. He's gone from talking about a slow trickle of information to saying disclosure is now imminent, and that the infrastructure for it is already being quietly prepared. And then there's John Ramirez, a retired CIA officer. Ramirez isn't speculating. He's openly said that the public need to prepare for the reality of non-human intelligences being here. He's hinted that official acknowledgement of this could happen mid-decade, and that certain events, his words, are being timed to ease us into it. Now, why is that important? Because these aren't random YouTubers making predictions for clicks. These are people with either direct access to classified information or networks that connect them to people who do. And they're all circling the same 2-year window, which just happens to overlap with 3I Atlas's arrival. Let's lay this out logically. On October 29, 2025, a massive interstellar object, at least 10 kilometers long, makes its closest pass to Earth. A Harvard astrophysicist, Avi Loeb, says there's a 40% chance it's an alien spacecraft. Loeb warns it will pass behind the sun, giving it the perfect opportunity to change course or slow down without being detected. Multiple credible insiders point to a disclosure event between 2025 and 2027. You don't need a tinfoil hat to see the alignment here. If 3I Atlas is not natural, then its approach coinciding with the disclosure window might not be a coincidence. It could be the reason for it all. Think about how governments handle sensitive information. If they've known for months or even years that something like 3I Atlas is headed our way, they have two choices: say nothing and risk public panic when it appears, or gradually prepare us with hearings, documentaries, and controlled leaks so the shock is softened. And what have we been seeing lately? Congressional UFO hearings, Pentagon UAP reports, mainstream news covering non-human biologics, even NASA, an organization famously allergic to UFO talk, is suddenly holding press conferences about UAPs. This isn't random, this is conditioning. It's drip feeding the extraordinary into the public conversation so that when, not if, something undeniable happens, people are less likely to freak out. So let's play this out. If 3I Atlas is artificial, what could it be doing? Loeb himself offers one chilling possibility. It could be using its pass behind the sun to slow down and alter its trajectory towards Earth. That would mean that sometime after it reappears, we might find it not on an escape path, but on an approach. Scenario 1. Peaceful contact. It could be a long-term observation mission, finally deciding to make direct contact. Maybe it's been scanning us for decades, even centuries, and now the time is right. Scenario 2. Survey and preparation. It could be mapping Earth in detail, collecting biological and atmospheric data, perhaps in preparation for future missions. Think of it as a scout ship for a much larger presence. Scenario 3. Demonstration of capability. The most unnerving. It could simply be showing us that it could reach us whenever it wants. No invasion, no attack, just a calculated reminder that we're not in control. And then there's scenario 4, a false flag. Again, let's not ignore Corbell's warning. If the public sees a massive, mysterious object approaching Earth, it could be weaponized as a narrative, a staged alien threat to justify global unification, new military powers, or unprecedented control measures. Now, here's the kicker. If 3I Atlas is indeed a craft, disclosure might not come as a press conference. It might come in the form of a telescope on Earth suddenly locking on an object that is visibly maneuvering. That's not the kind of thing that you can hide, at least not for long. And this is why Loeb's behind the sun concern is so important. If that's when the maneuver happens, we wouldn't know about it until it's practically here. That's the holy shit moment. The one that forces everyone, governments and public alike, into the same conversation overnight. And here's where everything we've talked about stops being theory and becomes a clock ticking down. October 29th, 2025, just over 2 months from now, 3i Atlas will pass its closest point to Earth. But its real wildcard moment comes when it disappears behind the sun. If Loeb's right, it could reappear weeks later, not leaving the solar system, but coming straight for us. Coulthard says 2027 is a big year. Ramirez says they're preparing us. Greer says it's imminent. Corbell says we might get a staged alien attack. And Loeb says this object might be the real thing. What if all of these threads are connected? What if disclosure isn't an announcement at all, but something we watch approaching every night? A bright, undeniable object growing larger, with the entire planet looking up. In part 2, we're going to uncover what the world's astronomers, militaries, and intelligence agencies might already be doing to prepare, and why. Because if 3i Atlas is what Loeb suspects, we might see disclosure before we hear about it.